Tonight, after 15 months, it's a pivotal moment with a ceasefire that has been agreed, mediated by Qatar, Egypt and the United States over 460 days of relentless warfare that's ravaged and destroyed Gaza, that ripped the heart out of Gaza. This deal makes a temporary halt to hostilities but also introduces a complex roadmap for the future. Qatar's Prime Minister announced that the ceasefire would come into effect this Sunday, though work on its implementation continues and Israel's government is set to vote on the final details tomorrow. And right-wing politicians in the Israeli Knesset are likely to vote against it. There will be a prisoner exchange, humanitarian aid on an unprecedented scale, yet unpacking the detail and the deal, it's evident that its success hinges on overcoming deeply entrenched mistrust and political obstacles. So there are 4 phases in this deal. Initially, Hamas will release 33 of the Israeli captives that were taken on the appalling terrorist action on the 7th of October, including women, children and elderly civilians. In return, Israel will release a greater number of Palestinian prisoners, including individuals detained after October 2023 and those serving life sentences. Israeli troops will partially withdraw from Gaza, reducing their presence to areas near the border, but maintaining control over strategic points like the Netzarim corridor. And up to 600 aid trucks per day will be allowed into Gaza. The Rafah crossing with Egypt will reopen and wounded Palestinians will be permitted to seek medical treatment outside the enclave. And finally, displaced Palestinians will return to the northern Gaza Strip where famine conditions are reported. But the widespread destruction in the region raises questions about the feasibility of these returns. The ceasefire, while a temporary reprieve, lacks guarantees. Israel retains the option to resume hostilities after this phase. Meanwhile, the mediators, Qatar, Egypt and the US, have given Hamas verbal assurances that further negotiations will proceed. In the second phase, Hamas is expected to release remaining captives, including soldiers, in exchange for more Palestinian prisoners. A full Israeli withdrawal from Gaza is envisaged, though this runs counter to Prime Minister Netanyahu's prior rhetoric and the hardline stance of his cabinet. If conditions permit a third phase, it will involve a recovery of captives' remains and the initiation of an international reconstruction effort under a transitional governing authority. The post-war government of Gaza remains a contentious issue. The US envisages an interim authority led by the Palestinian Authority with international Arab state involvement, but this plan hinges on a broader support for Palestinian statehood, which I think should be an automatic declaration of the UN within the next few months, a prospect that rekindles debates over the two-state solution agreed upon in principle during the Oslo Accords. The ceasefire represents more than a cessation of violence. It's a litmus test for international diplomacy and regional cooperation. For Palestinians, it offers a glimmer of hope in the middle of unprecedented suffering. For Israel, it underscores the complexity of securing peace while navigating internal political divides. For mediators like Qatar and the US, it reaffirms the role that they have played in shaping outcomes in the Middle East. And one shouldn't forget the role of President Carter in starting the peace process initially, particularly given his death the other day. So while the deal is a momentary victory for diplomacy, its success depends on sustained commitment from all parties to address the root causes of the conflict, and without meaningful steps towards justice and reconstruction and statehood, the ceasefire risks becoming yet another pause in an unending cycle of violence. So a ceasefire with the object of peace is a major step forward.